Ambassador Lee Tae-ho walked through the long, shiny halls of the Galactic Council building. His black shoes made soft sounds on the smooth floor. The walls were covered with strange metals that changed colors as he passed by. He had seen these halls many times before, but today felt different. Today might be his last day here. Kim So-ra walked beside him carrying a small recording device. She was young and smart with bright eyes that missed nothing. She had been his helper for 2 years now, watching every meeting and writing down every word the alien said. Her face looked calm, but Tae-ho knew she was angry inside, just like him. The great meeting room was huge, with a ceiling so high you could not see the top rows of seats curved around a center stage where the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat waiting. Council leader Veltar was there with his blue skin and 4 glowing eyes. The karate leader stood tall like a living crystal that sparkled in the light. Representatives from 40 other alien races filled the room, all looking down at the 2 humans. Tae-ho had come to this room 847 times. He knew because So-ra counted every visit. Every time the answer was the same. Humans were too dangerous, too violent, too unpredictable. The galaxy did not want them. 3 years ago, when humans first discovered they were not alone in the universe, everyone on Earth was excited. They built the fastest ships they could and sent their best diplomats to ask for friendship. Earth offered to share their technology, their resources, even their art and music, but the galaxy said. Noveltar rose from his seat. His voice was cold and sharp like broken glass. Your species fights wars among yourselves, he said. How can we trust you with galactic peace? You destroy your own planet with pollution and waste. You cannot even make peace with your own kin. Tae-ho had heard these words so many times he could say them himself, but he stayed calm like always. We have shown our commitment to peace, he replied. We ended all wars on Earth. We cleaned our oceans and our air. We follow every rule you gave us. We shared our medical knowledge that saved millions of alien lives. Not enough, Veltar hissed. Your kind will always be violent. Look at your history. You had 2 great wars that killed millions. You built weapons that could destroy entire planets. You enslaved your own people for thousands of years. The human ambassador felt something hot rise in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. That was our past, he said. We learned from our mistakes. We grew, we changed. Is that not what intelligent beings do? The crystal being called Mortel spoke next in a voice like wind chimes. Your species is too young, too reckless. You have existed for only a few thousand years. We have been civilized for millions. You need more time to prove you are worthy. Tae-ho looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some looked bored, others looked disgusted. A few seemed almost afraid, but none looked friendly. None looked like they wanted humans as neighbors or friends. Behind him, So-ra whispered, so the recording shows this is the same speech they gave us last month and the month before. The Vexery trade minister stood up. Your people work too hard, he complained. You make things too fast, too cheap. You would destroy our economy with your efficiency. Other species cannot compete with human productivity. Now, Tae-ho felt confused. They were being rejected for being too violent and too peaceful. Too slow and too fast, too primitive and too advanced. The aliens wanted humans to be something impossible. Insect-like being with many arms clicked its mandibles. Your species asks too many questions. You want to know how everything works. You never accept that some knowledge is forbidden. You would upset the natural order of things. So-ra stepped forward slightly. Sir, may I speak? Tae-ho nodded. She looked up at the towering aliens with no fear in her voice. You say we are too violent, but the karate invaded 6 star systems last year. You say we are too greedy, but the Vexery control all trade routes and charge unfair prices. You say we ask too many questions, but your own scientists study human behavior like we are animals in a zoo. Silence filled the great room. The aliens looked shocked that a human would dare speak so directly. Voltaire slammed his hand on his desk. Enough. This proves our point. Humans do not know their place. You do not respect authority. You question everything you think. You are equal to species that ruled the galaxy before your world even had life. That is exactly right, Tae-ho said quietly. We do think we are equal because we are. The room exploded with angry voices. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Some stood up and waved their arms or tentacles or claws. The noise was deafening. Voltaire raised his 4 arms for silence. When he spoke, his voice was full of hate. Your application for galactic citizenship is denied forever. Your species will never be welcome. Among civilized beings, you will remain quarantined to your small solar system. If you try to expand beyond those borders, we will stop you with. Forstejo stood completely still for a long moment. Sora watched him carefully. She saw something change. In his eyes, like a fire going out and a different kind of fire starting. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile or a sad smile. It was something else entirely. Then we are done here, he said in a voice so calm it made the aliens stop shouting. He reached for the communicator on his belt and pressed a button. This is Ambassador Lee to Earth Command. Operation Exodus is approved. We are coming home. The great room fell silent. Every alien eye was on the human ambassador. Sir Veltar said uncertainly, "What do you mean?" Tejo looked up at the blue-skinned leader with those four glowing eyes. "It means we tried to join your galaxy the peaceful way. We offered friendship, we offered partnership, we offered everything we had, but you have made it clear that you do not want us, so we will not stay where we are not wanted, but you cannot just leave," an alien voice called out from the crowd watch. "U.S. Tejo," replied. He turned to Sora. "Are you ready to go home?" "Yes, sir," she said with a smile that matched his. They walked toward the exit together, their footsteps echoing in the silent room. Behind them, hundreds of aliens sat frozen, not understanding what had just happened. At the door, Tejo turned back for one last look. "You had a chance to gain the friendship of humanity," he called out in a voice that carried to every corner of the room. "Instead, you chose to make us your enemy. That was not a wise choice." The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss, leaving the most powerful beings in the galaxy sitting in stunned silence, wondering what they had just done and what would happen next. Captain Park Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the Earthship Defiance, watching as 300 human vessels formed up around him. The largest fleet humanity had ever built stretched out in all directions. Some ships were massive cargo haulers that could carry entire cities. Others were sleek military vessels with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Most were transport ships designed to carry families and all their belongings across the vast darkness of space. The fleet had one mission: bring every human home from every corner of the galaxy. "Sir, we are receiving transmission from the Karate Monitoring Station," reported Lieutenant Song Yujin from her position at the communications console. "They are demanding to know our intentions and asking why we are moving so many ships at once. Tell them we are exercising our legal right to free movement." Jinwoo replied calmly, "We are not violating any galactic laws or treaties. We are simply traveling." Yujin nodded and sent the message. "But sir," she added quietly, "the karate commander sounds very worried. He keeps asking if this is some kind of military action. Let him worry." Jinwoo said, "The aliens spent 3 years telling us we do not belong in their galaxy. Now they will see what it looks like when we actually leave on the planet Kepler 442b. Administrator Choi Min-ho was overseeing the evacuation of the largest human colony outside of Earth. The settlement had grown over 15 years from a small research outpost to a thriving city of 2 million people. Humans had built farms that fed half the sector and factories that produced tools used across dozens of star systems. The colonists were not panicking or complaining. Instead, they worked with quiet efficiency, packing everything they could carry and preparing to abandon the world they had called home. Most had been born here. Their children had never seen Earth, but when the call came to return home, they answered without question. Dr. Kang Ha-yoon, the colony chief scientist, was loading the last of her research equipment onto a transport ship. "Are we really giving up everything we built here?" she asked Min-ho as they watched families boarding the evacuation vessels. "No," Min-ho replied with a grim smile. "We are not giving up anything. We are taking it with us. Every person, every idea, every lesson we learned." The aliens think they are getting rid of a problem, but they are about to discover what they are really losing. The transport ships rose into the sky one after another, carrying away 15 years of human dreams and achievements. Within hours, the bustling colony was empty except for the buildings and machines. Left behind, Min-ho was the last to leave. He took one final look at the city humans had carved out of an alien world, then climbed aboard his ship. Similar scenes played out across 12 star systems. Human miners abandoned asteroid operations that produced rare metals for the galactic economy. Human farmers left agricultural worlds that had helped feed overpopulated alien planets. Human scientists packed up research stations that had made breakthrough discoveries in medicine and physics. The Aliens watched with growing alarm as humanity performed the most massive evacuation in galactic history. Every human ship, every human colony, every human outpost was being emptied. The species that had spent 3 years begging for acceptance was disappearing completely. On the Vexery Homeworld Trade Minister Kolnex called an emergency meeting with his advisors. The humans are removing all their people from Sector 7, he announced with worry in his voice. That sector produces 40% of our rare earth minerals. Without human mining expertise, our economy could collapse within months. Similar panic was spreading across alien space. The Karate discovered that their energy grid systems had been maintained primarily by human engineers. When those engineers left, critical power stations began failing. The crystal cities that had glowed for millions of years started going dark. Ambassador Veltar received reports from across the galaxy that made his 4 eyes glow with alarm. Humans were not just leaving, they were taking their knowledge and skills with them. Trade routes collapsed, mining operations shut down, medical facilities that relied on human-designed equipment stopped working. But where are they going? Veltar demanded of his intelligence chief. The spy looked confused. Sir, our long-range sensors show all human ships heading toward the galactic rim, but then they simply vanish. We cannot track them beyond the edge of known space. This should have been impossible. Galactic technology was supposed to be superior to anything humans possessed. How could an entire species disappear without a trace on Earth? President Yang Subin met with the Global Defense Council in a secure bunker beneath the capital. The aliens are starting to panic, she reported with satisfaction. Our intelligence agents embedded in their governments report massive economic disruption. They are finally learning what human contribution really meant to their civilization. General Lim Dong-hyuk pulled up holographic displays showing secret construction projects in the void between galaxies. Project Haven is ahead of schedule, he announced. Our new colony ships are establishing bases in previously unexplored regions. The mobile shipyards are already producing vessels with capabilities the aliens have never seen. Dr. Nam Ji Hai, the lead engineer for Humanity New Defense Systems, added, the quantum barrier generators are online. If any alien force tries to follow us into our new territory, they will face weapons technology that makes their best ships look like toys. Yang Subin nodded approvingly. For 3 years we tried to join their galaxy as equals. Now we will build our own galaxy and show them what they rejected back in galactic space. Alien merchants were discovering that human-made goods were impossible to replace. The simple, reliable tools that humans produced had become essential to daily life across hundreds of worlds. Efficient engines designed by human engineers powered most civilian spacecraft. Practical solutions to everyday problems that only humans seemed capable of creating were suddenly gone. The Helix Federation, a group of smaller alien species that had always been bullied by the major powers, called for an emergency assembly. We demand answers, they announced. Why did the Galactic Council drive away the only species that actually helped solve problems instead of creating them? The reptilian Sleth, who had relied on human agricultural techniques to prevent famine on their desert worlds, were facing starvation. Their crops were failing without human expertise, and no one else in the galaxy understood how to grow food in such harsh conditions. Panic spread from world to world as the full impact of humanity exodus became clear. The aliens had not just lost workers or trade partners, they had lost the most innovative and adaptable species in the galaxy. They had lost the beings who could solve problems that others could not even understand. In the void beyond the galactic rim, human ships continued their journey to freedom. Behind them, they left a galaxy that was finally learning the true value of what it had rejected, but it was too late. The humans were gone, and they were not coming back. The great exodus was complete, and a new chapter in human history was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the last human ship disappeared beyond the galactic rim. The galaxy had grown strangely quiet in ways that made even the most powerful alien leaders feel uneasy. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for decades were now failing. Mining operations that had run without problems for years were shutting down. The galactic economy was feeling the absence of human innovation, like a missing heart that could no longer pump life through the system. Council leader Veltar paced back and forth in his private office, his 4 eyes glowing with frustration and something that might have been fear. The intelligence reports on his desk painted a picture. He did not want to believe half the minor species in the galaxy were complaining about economic collapse. Food shortages were spreading across 12 sectors. Critical infrastructure was breaking down without human maintenance. Where did they go? He demanded of Intelligence Chief Morkex for the 100th time. How does an entire species simply vanish? Morkex shifted nervously in his chair. Sir, our best sensors cannot penetrate beyond the galactic rim. The area they entered appears to be some kind of void where our technology does not work. All we know is that every human ship headed in that direction and then disappeared completely. This was impossible. The Galactic Council had the most advanced technology in known space. They could track a single ship across thousands of light years. They could monitor communications between distant worlds, but somehow primitive humans had found a way to hide an entire civilization on Earth. President Yang Subin was meeting with the Global Defense Council in a conference room deep underground. The walls were covered with screens showing the galaxy they had left behind. Most of those screens displayed red warning lights, indicating systems in crisis or complete failure. The aliens are learning what we meant to their civilization, she said with cold satisfaction. Our hidden observation posts report massive disruption across all major trade networks. The Vexery Empire is facing rebellion in their outer colonies because they can no longer supply basic necessities. General Lim Dong-hyuk pointed to a holographic display showing construction projects in the void between galaxies. Project Haven continues to exceed all expectations. Our mobile cities are establishing themselves in regions the aliens never even knew existed. We have discovered 17 habitable worlds and begun terraforming operations on 12 more. The defense grid Dr. Nam Jihai added with a smile that did not reach her eyes is something they have never encountered before. If any alien force tries to locate us, they will face technology that makes their most advanced weapons look like stone. Yang Subin nodded. The galaxy rejected us because they thought we were too primitive, too violent, too unpredictable. Now they will learn what humans can accomplish when they are truly motivated. Meanwhile, across galactic space, alien merchants were discovering that the simple practical goods humans produced could not be replaced. The Karate had tried to manufacture the basic tools that humans made so easily, but their versions were complex, expensive, and broke easily. Human designs were elegant in their simplicity, using the minimum materials to achieve maximum effectiveness. Trade Minister Kolnex of the Vexery Empire stood before an emergency assembly of business leaders. Our economy is collapsing, he announced with panic in his voice. Human mining techniques extracted resources at twice the efficiency of our methods. Human agricultural systems produced food at half the cost. Human manufacturing created goods that lasted 10 times longer than anything we can make, but they were primitives, protested one of the business leaders. How could such a young species be so much more efficient than civilizations millions of years old? That was the question that haunted every alien leader. The humans had seemed so simple, so straightforward in their approach to problems, while alien engineers created complex solutions that required teams of specialists to maintain. Humans built things that worked reliably for decades with minimal care. Dr. Yoon Seong-min had been Earth former xenobiology expert, but now he was leading terraforming projects on a scale that made alien engineers weep with envy. Working in the void beyond the galactic rim, he was transforming dead worlds into gardens using techniques that combined human ingenuity with technologies the aliens had never imagined. Engineer Nam Jihai had designed defensive systems that made traditional galactic warfare completely obsolete. Her quantum barrier generators could stop any known weapon, while her adaptive shield systems learned from each attack and became stronger. Human ships protected by her technology were essentially invulnerable to anything the galaxy could throw at them. The most disturbing reports came from the edges of known space. Human exploration vessels were appearing in regions that had never been mapped. They were making contact with species that the Galactic Council had never encountered. These new aliens were forming alliances with humanity that completely bypassed galactic authority. Captain Bae Sujin commanded one of these exploration fleets aboard the ship. Harmony. Unlike the elegant curved designs favored by galactic races, human ships were blocky, practical, and incredibly Tough, the Harmony looked like a flying fortress, but it could outfight 3 Vexery battleships and outrun anything in the known galaxy, sir. Reported her communications officer. We are receiving distress calls from 17 different species in this sector. They are all asking for human assistance with various. Krisesu Jin smiled. Help them all, she ordered. Let the galaxy see what they rejected. Word of human activities beyond the rim began reaching galactic space through independent traders and smugglers. The stories they told seemed impossible. Humans were building cities in the void between galaxies. They were terraforming worlds at incredible speed. They were creating technology that surpassed anything the ancient civilizations had achieved. Most terrifying of all, humans were finding and allying with species that had remained hidden from galactic authority. Some of these new allies possessed technologies that made even the karate crystal cities look primitive. Others controlled resources that could revolutionize galactic civilization. The Galactic Council was facing its worst crisis in a million years. Member species were questioning their leadership. Trade was collapsing, infrastructure was failing, and somewhere in the darkness beyond the rim, humanity was building something that might make the old galactic order completely irrelevant. Voltaire stared out the window of his office at the great city below, where alien citizens struggled with shortages and system failures. For the first time in his long life, he wondered if the Council had made a terrible mistake, but it was too late now. The humans were gone, and they had taken the future with them. 2 years after humanity had vanished beyond the galactic rim, the great civilization that had ruled space for millions of years was falling apart. The Galactic Council chambers that had once been filled with confident voices now echoed with angry shouts and desperate pleas for help. Ambassador Tir-Ok of the reptilian Sleth species slammed his clawed fist on his desk as he addressed the assembly. You drove away the only species that actually solved problems instead of just talking about them, he roared, his voice filled with rage. My people are starving because human agricultural techniques kept our desert worlds fed. Without their knowledge, our crops fail and our children. Did the insectoid representative from the Hive Collective clicked her mandibles in agreement. The humans built water purification systems that worked for 50 years without maintenance. Our own engineers cannot even understand how they function now. Our colonies are dying of thirst because we were too proud to learn from a younger species council. Leader Veltar tried to maintain control, but even his own advisors were turning against him. Sir, his economic minister whispered urgently, perhaps we should reconsider our position. The galaxy is in chaos. Without human innovation, never. Veltar snarled, but his 4 eyes had lost their confident glow. They were primitives, he said, though his voice lacked conviction. We are the advanced civilizations. We do not need them. The crystalline collective representative rose to his full towering height. His crystal body no longer sparkled with inner light. Because the energy systems that powered their cities were failing without human maintenance, the humans warned us this would happen, he said in a voice like breaking glass. They told us their departure would have consequences. We chose not to listen. Intelligence reports flooded in daily about human activities in the unknown regions beyond the rim. The news was becoming more disturbing with each passing day. Humans were not just surviving in exile, they were thriving beyond anything the galaxy had thought possible. Dr. Yoon Seong-min, the former Earth xenobiology expert, was now transforming entire star systems into gardens. His terraforming techniques could turn a dead rock into a paradise in months rather than the centuries it took. Galactic science independent traders who had ventured beyond the rim brought back images that made alien scientists question everything they thought they knew about planetary engineering. Engineer Nam Ji-hai had created defensive technologies that made the galaxy most advanced. Weapons looked like primitive clubs. Her ships moved through space using principles that galactic physicists claimed were impossible. They could appear and disappear at will, strike without warning, and defend against any attack. But the most terrifying reports came from contact with new species that humanity had discovered beyond the rim. These aliens possessed technologies that the ancient galactic civilizations had never imagined: energy sources that could power entire star systems, manufacturing techniques that could build planets from raw materials, weapons that could reshape reality itself. Captain Bae Soo-jin commanded the human Flagship Harmony, which had been spotted by galactic scouts at the edge of known space, the ship design was completely alien to galactic thinking. Instead of the flowing organic curves preferred by most species, human vessels were angular, practical, and absolutely terrifying in their efficiency, sir, reported a panicked Karate. Scout Captain, the human ship outmaneuvered our entire squadron without apparent effort. When we attempted to scan their technology, our instruments simply stopped working. It was as if they were protected by forces we cannot understand. The economic collapse was accelerating beyond control. The Vexery Empire faced open rebellion as their trade networks crumbled without human efficiency. Worlds that had depended on human mining techniques were running out of essential resources. The Karate Crystal Cities were going dark one by one as their ancient energy systems failed. Trade Minister Kolnek stood before the Galactic Council with desperation in his voice. "We must contact the humans," he pleaded. "Our civilization is dying without their contributions. They were not our servants, they were our partners, and we were too blind to see it." "But how do we contact them?" demanded Veltar. "They have vanished completely. Our most advanced sensors cannot penetrate whatever barrier they have created around their new territory." The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Lee Minjun of the independent trader vessel Wanderer had somehow managed to make contact with human forces beyond the rim. When he returned to galactic space, his ship carried technologies that should not have existed and a message that shook the foundations of galactic civilization. "The humans sent this recording," he announced, playing a holographic message from Ambassador Lee Taeho, standing in what appeared to be a vast space station surrounded by ships of impossible design. "People of the galaxy," the recording began. Taeho's voice was calm but carried an authority he had never possessed during his years of failed negotiations. "You rejected us because you believed we were too primitive, too violent, too unpredictable. You were wrong on all counts." Behind him, the camera showed human cities floating in the void between galaxies, gardens growing on artificial worlds, technologies that bent space and time to human will, ships that moved like living things through dimensions the galaxy had never discovered. "We are not primitive," the recording continued. "We are innovative. We are not violent. We are determined. We are not unpredictable. We are free, and in our freedom, we have accomplished in 2 years what your ancient civilizations could not achieve in millions." The message showed human explorers making contact with dozens of new species, each alliance adding to humanity's growing confederation. These were not conquered subjects but willing partners who had chosen to join a civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. "Your galaxy is dying," the recording concluded, "because you chose control over creativity, order over innovation, fear over hope. We offered to share our gifts with you, but you preferred to remain in your comfortable cages. Now you will discover what the universe looks like when humans are free to reach their full potential." The hologram flickered and died, leaving the Galactic Council in stunned silence. The great civilization that had ruled space for eons was facing extinction, while the species they had rejected was building something beyond their wildest dreams. Voltaire stared at the empty space where the message had played, his 4 eyes dim with the realization of what they had lost. The humans had not just left the galaxy, they had transcended it, and there was no way to bring them back. The Galactic Council was hemorrhaging member species like a ship with a massive hull breach. Every week brought news of another civilization declaring independence from galactic authority. The ancient order that had maintained peace and stability for millions of years was crumbling in mere months. The Helix Federation, composed of 12 smaller species, had officially withdrawn from all galactic treaties. "We refuse to be part of a government that drove away our greatest allies," announced their spokesperson, Ambassador Werlan. "The humans helped us achieve prosperity and peace, while the Council only demanded tribute and obedience." The Crystalline Collective, whose crystal cities had once been the crown jewels of galactic civilization, had gone completely dark. Their energy systems, built millions of years ago, had finally failed without human maintenance expertise. An entire species that had existed since before most stars were born was facing extinction because they had been too proud to learn from humans. Council leader Veltar sat alone in his vast office, staring at reports that painted an increasingly desperate picture. His advisors had stopped trying to hide their panic, and several had already resigned to seek positions with species that were breaking away from galactic authority, sir. Whispered his chief of staff. We are receiving reports that over 60 species have now made direct contact with humanity beyond the rim. They are forming some kind of new confederation that operates completely outside our influence. Eviltar, four eyes burned with frustrated rage. How can primitives who have existed for only a few thousand years command such loyalty from species that are millions of years old because they are not primitives? His advisor replied quietly, our own intelligence. Analysts have concluded that human innovation and adaptability represent an evolutionary leap beyond anything we have seen. They solve problems we never even knew existed. Never, Veltar snarled, slamming his fist on the desk. The Galactic Council has maintained order for longer than most species have existed. We will not bow to upstart humans who think they can remake the universe. But sir, the advisor continued nervously, our member species are not just leaving, they are actively seeking human protection. Several worlds have reported that human ships appeared when they were threatened by pirates or natural disasters. The humans provide aid with no demands for payment or political control. This news was perhaps the most disturbing of all. Humans were not trying to conquer or dominate the species that sought their help. Instead, they offered assistance freely and then departed, leaving behind only grateful allies. This approach was so foreign to galactic thinking that most council members could not understand it. Captain Bei Su-jin commanded the human flagship Harmony as it patrolled the edges of known space. Her mission was not conquest or expansion, but simple observation. Let the galaxy see what humans had become without interference from those who had rejected them, sir. Reported her tactical officer. We are detecting multiple Galactic Council scout ships attempting to penetrate the barrier around our territory. They seem to be trying to map our defensive systems. Let them try, Su-jin replied with calm confidence. They will find that human ingenuity has created something their science cannot comprehend. The quantum barriers that protected human space were beyond galactic understanding. They did not simply block sensors or weapons, they existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making it impossible for outside observers to even determine where human territory began or ended. Ships that approached the barrier found themselves turned around and heading back the way they came without ever realizing what had happened. Intelligence Director Ko Young-soo was analyzing intercepted galactic communications from his headquarters on New Seoul Station. The data painted a picture of civilization in complete collapse. Half the major species are facing internal rebellion, he reported to President Yang Subin. The other half are desperately trying to maintain control while their economies crumble. Yang Subin nodded with satisfaction. The aliens had 3 years to accept our friendship. Instead, they chose to make us their enemy. Now they are learning the difference between having humans as allies versus having humans as competitors. General Lim Dong-hyuk added, the defense grid is detecting increasing attempts at surveillance, but none of their probes can penetrate our security measures. We remain completely invisible to their technology while our observation posts monitor everything they do. Meanwhile, in human space beyond the rim, an incredible transformation was taking place. Dr. Nam Ji-hai had designed cities that floated free in the void between galaxies, drawing energy directly from quantum fluctuations in space itself. These mobile habitats could support millions of people while remaining completely hidden from galactic detection. Engineer Park Woo-jin had created manufacturing systems that could turn asteroids into starships in a matter of days. His automated factories worked with precision that made alien engineering look clumsy and wasteful. Within months of humanity exodus, they were producing vessels superior to anything the galaxy had ever built. The most remarkable development was humanity's success in forming alliances with species the Galactic Council had never even known existed. Captain Song Yu-jin led exploration fleets that discovered civilizations hiding in pocket dimensions, parallel realities, and regions of space where normal physics did not apply. These new allies brought technologies that revolutionized human capabilities, energy beings that could manipulate matter at the quantum level, silicon-based life forms that could process information faster than any computer hive minds that could coordinate actions across vast distances with perfect precision. Each new alliance made humanity stronger while the old galaxy grew weaker. The confederation that humans were building operated on principles completely alien to galactic thinking. Instead of hierarchy and control. It emphasized cooperation and mutual benefit. Instead of demanding tribute, it shared resources freely. Ambassador Li Taeho stood on the observation deck of Humanity flagship, watching as representatives from 47 different species gathered for the first interdimensional congress. These were not conquered subjects or tribute-paying vassals, but equal partners in something unprecedented, sir, reported his aide Kim Sora. We are receiving increasingly desperate messages from the Galactic Council. They are requesting, not demanding, a meeting for the first time in their history. Taho smiled coldly. Let them wait, he said. We tried diplomacy for 3 years, and they called us unworthy. Now they can experience what it feels like to be ignored. The old galaxy was dying while something new and magnificent was being born from its ashes. The species that had been rejected for being too human was showing the universe what being human really meant, and the future they were building was brighter than anything the ancient civilizations had ever imagined possible. The Galactic Council desperate panic was completely justified. They had not just lost humanity, they had lost control of the future itself. 5 years after the Great Exodus, Ambassador Li Taeho received a message that would have been impossible to imagine when he first walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. The same beings who had called humans unworthy primitives were now sending desperate pleas for contact. Their mighty civilization was collapsing while humanity had built something beyond their wildest dreams. The message arrived through Captain Lee Min-jun, the independent trader who had become an unofficial ambassador between the dying galaxy and the thriving human Confederation. Min-jun's ship, the Wanderer, now carried technologies that made galactic vessels look like ancient relics, but his most important cargo was a simple recording. Council leader Veltar appeared on the hologram, but he looked nothing like the proud, arrogant being who had dismissed humanity years ago. His 4 eyes were dim with exhaustion, and his blue skin had taken on a grayish tint that spoke of stress and sleepless nights. Ambassador Li Taeho, he began, his voice stripped of all authority. We formally request a meeting to discuss the possibility of renewed diplomatic relations between the Galactic Council and humanity. We acknowledge that our previous position may have been short-sighted. Taho watched this message from the observation deck of New Sol Station, humanity first fully independent orbital city. Through the transparent walls he could see human ships working alongside vessels from dozens of species the galaxy had never known existed. The view was breathtaking and proved how far humanity had come. Kim Sora, now Director of Interspecies Relations, stood beside him. Sir, Intelligence Director Ko Young-soo reports that the situation in galactic space has deteriorated beyond repair. Half their member species have declared independence. Trade has collapsed completely. Several major civilizations are facing extinction. Taeho nodded slowly. The reports from their hidden observation posts painted a picture of complete systemic failure. The Vexry Empire had broken apart into warring factions. The Karate Crystal Cities were dead monuments to a civilization that had forgotten how to maintain its own technology. The great trade routes that had connected thousands of worlds were now empty passages through space. Should we respond to their request? So Asked Taho was quiet for a long moment, watching as a group of human children played in the Station Zero Gravity Gardens with alien friends whose species had never been part of the old galactic order. These children were growing up in a universe where cooperation was normal, where different species worked together as equals, where problems were solved through innovation rather than politics. Finally, he spoke. Send them a message. Tell them we are busy building something better. Tell them that when they are ready to treat all species as equals instead of subjects, they know where to find us. The message that went back to the dying Galactic Council was not angry or vengeful. It simply stated facts. The Human Confederation now included over 200 species from multiple dimensions and realities. They had established colonies in regions of space that defied galactic understanding. Their technology had advanced beyond anything the ancient civilizations had achieved. Most importantly, they had created a new form of government based on voluntary cooperation rather than imposed authority. Species joined the Confederation because they wanted to, not because they were forced to. Each member contributed according to their abilities and received according to their needs. Dr. Yoon Seung-min now led terraforming projects that could transform entire star systems into gardens, his teams included energy beings who could manipulate matter at the quantum level, and machine intelligences that could calculate the optimal conditions for any form of life. Working together, they had created worlds that were more beautiful and more productive than anything in the old galaxy. Engineer Nam Ji-hai had designed cities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Her quantum architecture allowed millions of beings to live in spaces that appeared small from the outside, but contained entire civilizations within the human confederation could support a population larger than the entire old galaxy while using a fraction of the resources. Captain Bei Sujing commanded fleets that patrolled the borders between realities. Her ships used technologies that made galactic vessels look like stone tools. They could travel through dimensions that did not exist, appear in multiple locations simultaneously, and defend against threats that conventional physics could not even recognize. The most remarkable achievement was humanity's success in creating a truly inclusive civilization. The Confederation included silicon-based life forms that thought in crystalline patterns, hive minds that communicated through quantum entanglement, energy beings that existed as pure consciousness, and countless other forms of life that had been ignored or unknown by the old Galactic Order. Ambassador Werlan of the former Helix Federation now served as co-chair of the Interdimensional Congress alongside human representatives. This was not a human empire with alien subjects, but a true partnership, where every species had an equal voice in decisions that affected them, sir. Reported Intelligence Director Ko Young-soo. The latest analysis shows that the old galaxy has lost over 80% of its member species. Most have either declared independence or simply ceased to exist as functioning civilizations. The Galactic Council now controls fewer worlds than some individual human colonies. President Yang Subin reviewed the reports with satisfaction, but also with a touch of sadness. She had never wanted to see galactic civilization collapse completely, but the aliens had chosen this path when they rejected humanity's offer of friendship. The children growing up in New Sol Station and thousands of other human settlements would never know the galaxy that had rejected their parents. They would grow up in a universe where diversity was celebrated, where problems were solved through cooperation, where the motto was not might makes right, but together we are stronger. Tahoe made one final decision regarding the Galactic Council desperate plea for help. Send them coordinates for a meeting, he told Sora, but not in our space and not on their terms. If they want to discuss joining our confederation as equals, they are welcome to apply like any other species. The message that went back to the dying council was simple: the age of galactic dominance was over. The future belonged to those who could adapt, cooperate, and grow. The species that had been rejected for being too human had shown the universe what being human really meant. As Taeho watched the stars through the station windows, he knew that humanity had not just survived their exile, they had used it to become something greater than they had ever imagined possible. The galaxy old order was crumbling, but from its ashes, something magnificent had been born. The future was bright, and it belonged to all species willing to reach for it together.